Hello and welcome back to the worst War Machine channel on the internet. I'm Malorian, and this is Malorian Weekly. Now, the topic today, again, comes from my patrons. They voted on it, and they were sneaky. In the past, I was like, do you want me to cover, this Zero Junior that came out, or this one? They wouldn't vote for those. They'd go for other stuff. Finally, I broke down, all right, one option, I review all the Zeros that have come out so far, and another one, we're going to be trying to think about what type of stuff they're going to be doing with these going forward. And they very, very keenly went and worked together to make both those tied for the winner. So that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be looking over all those new Horde Zero level casters that they just released. And then we're going to be, from what we're trying to see here, kind of talk about where they could be going forward with this type of design space. Now, as I pop over here to the rules, I want to be very clear that these are the ones that came out in the Insiders, and when it comes out to being in the actual war room, this could be changed, right? This might not be the final version. So just know that there's some wiggle room still in here, but it kind of gives you the idea of where they're going with it. So we're going to have 4 to cover. The first one here is going to be the good old Madrak Zero. So these ones here are all basically these juniors you could be taking. They're like the Kane Zeros and stuff like that you had from the War Machine side. Now it's time for Hordes. So, when it comes to like the stats, they're all going to be kind of like generic type of stuff. Nothing really crazy you're going to be seeing there. They're going to be around 5 points. Doesn't matter because when you take them, you're probably going to make them free as your rec option. But for this first one here, one of the interesting things from Madrak Zero is it has Mastermind Trollkin Warlock. So it says this model can be included in any army that includes a Trollkin Warlock model, regardless of theme force restrictions, and cannot be included in any army that doesn't also include a Trollkin Warlock model. Really weird wording here, but basically what they're getting at is, okay, we're making sure this can go in all the right places it can be, and really covering their butts for whenever these cross themes come up. So, okay, I see where they're going with that. Getting down here, another interesting rule that came up with this one here was henchmen. Troll Axer and Troll Impaler. We've seen some henchmen, like, with Azrazello and stuff like that. And in this case here, you get to pick one of your friendly Troll Axers or Impalers, and it's going to be getting +1 Mat and Rat. And then as well, a new rule called Lifelink, which is really you get to transfer it once for free without spending Fury. So, okay, that helps with survivability. We're going to have Relentless Charge, Righteous Vengeance, a weapon which is forgettable. However, if you hit an enemy model with it, then for 1 round, your friendly faction models within 4 inches get +2 armor. Okay, that's neat. It has a Bracer spell where you can be targeting a War Beast in your battle group, so not just anyone, and you get +2 armor. You can't be slammed, pushed, blah, blah, blah. It's like the one that Jake's Zero has, but for War Beast. And then you also have Jackhammer, which is a very interesting one to have on a junior, which is the one where for 1 cost, you get to make that model make an attack in your battle group again. So this is a very interesting build of what they're going for. First of all, this idea they can go and have these henchmen. This henchman rule is a very interesting way for influencing the way that the army is actually going to be built. Having something here where it probably wants to stay back, really juice something up, go in, jackhammer, and then when it comes in after, hitting things, raising armor, and supporting the rest of the army. So Madrak Zero, interesting build. Next one here we're going to be talking about is Barnabas Zero. This is Barnabas the Conqueror now. And what we're looking at here is, again, 5 points, regular type of stats. It's amphibious. It's tough. It's also going to be having the Blood Quenched. So this one here is getting +1 strength and armor as it goes around destroying things with its melee attacks. However, that's also its field marshal. So we've seen Blood Quenched on some things before, but it wasn't really impactful, right? Because if you go in there and you're doing this with your caster, this is like a last desperate attempt. And if you get some armor from it, great, but you're also like really putting yourself in danger to do this. The fact that Barnabas Zero has it, again, forgettable. However, the fact that it's a field marshal, wow. Like you get a big heavy that goes in there, kills a couple of things, and then gets +1 strength and armor for each of these ones, that can be massive. So really something to keep your eye on. Also Relentless Charge, also Henchman again coming up. And so this one is for Gatorman Posse. And so you pick one friendly Gatorman Posse unit, and it's going to be getting +1 speed and mat and Relentless Charge. Sure, why not? Make your Gators better. Past this, you have, some forgettable weapons that it has with its axe and its shield, and it has a bite, 3 melees. Sure, why not? The other big thing here is going to be having battle hosts. So the war beast and its battle group beginning their activations in its control range get +2 movement when advancing as part of their normal movement. And also the spellcaster also gets +2 arm. So it's basically, again, escort, but now for the horde side. So speeding things up, but just for your battle group. We're starting to see something here where there's a lot of stuff not saying I'm going to be buffing all the other things, but specifically in my battle group. Also Murderous Intent. So while in the spellcaster's control range, models in this model's battle group again gain Murderous for 1 round. And what Murderous means is you get an additional die on melee attack rolls against warrior models. Again, trying to really buff up that battle group. That battle group being a thing where they get extra movement, they're getting extra dice against infantry as they're killing stuff, their armor is going up. It's really battle group focused and something that's very interesting and different from what we've seen before. Number 3 is going to be Makeda Zero. So this one here, again, it's a little bit cheaper. It's only 4 points. This one might pay for, might be not taking your free one. It's going to be a hero of the people. So when this model destroys 1 or more enemy models with a melee attack during its activations, other warrior models around it gain +2 to their attack rolls in its command range. So we've seen that on things like, Ashland 2 up here. We also have Sacrificial Pawn for Warrior. So you hit me, I pass it on to a warrior. Also Understudy, which is an interesting rule that while a friendly faction Warlock in this model's command range, this model can use the Warlock's current mat in place of its own. So what it's really meaning is that its mat is already pretty good. It starts at 6, which is not awesome, but it's not awful. But if you're underneath a Warlock that has a higher mat, hey, I'll take that. So why not? That's a nice little buff to throw in there. Probably won't usually come up like a lot of these offensive things for these juniors. It's usually these like last desperate moments, but hey, throw something in there. And this one's actually kind of more of like the story of how it's there trying to understudy and learn its way up. It's a weapon master, has a cool sword, doesn't really do very much past than just being a weapon master. It does have flashing blade, a little bit boring. Also has celerity, so target friendly faction warrior model unit gains +1 defense, and additionally affected model gains +2 movement when advancing as part of their normal movement. So this is not like the other two, right? The other two were all about like build up the battle group, build up the battle group. This one seems to be more there to be trying to buff up the infantry in the army with that one spell at least. I mean, it's something you definitely want to have out there. +1 def and +2 speed is pretty good to have. But then again, the rest of stuff thing seems to be like, it's going to be like a little like super solo kind of, right? Again, it's not super amazing, but hey, like flashing blade, range 2, you could go in there and do that stuff, but it's a little bit risky, right? This is a Warlock. You're going to need to have something else attached to it. You don't want that thing to go wild type thing. So, okay, this one was not as interesting to me as the other two. Now, the new one that came out today, and I was waiting for this one until this came out, so it was all good timing, is this going to be Kruger Zero. Now, for this one here, it is again, 5 points, blah, 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 all the normal stuff there, immunity electricity, but it also has bleed power. Now, what bleed power says is at the beginning of this model's activation, it gains 1 fury point for each friendly faction construct model within 3 inches of this model up to its fury. So this can be done a lot of different ways. There's a lot of different construct models, right? It could be some of the big wolves. It could just be like the shifting stones or something like that. So any of these things could be there and adding fury points. But this one's a little bit weird because you get fury points, no problem, right? You have your battle group, you're reaving them in. So it would have to be in some case where like you're casting spells, but not even bothering to rile, or maybe you're assuming your beast is going to go suicidal. You get one free one, but you want to get some others. that seems to be maybe what this is all about. It's also going to have Lifeline, which is kind of like this lifelink thing that they've been doing, where once per turn, this model can transfer damage to a friendly faction war beast within its control range without spending Fury. Oh, this one here is not like the lifelink, actually, where you have to transfer it to something in your battle group. This is just a friendly faction war beast. Again, almost seeming like this one's not going to have a battle group, right? I can go and send things out. Oh, I don't have anything for me to actually transfer to. I'll transfer to the actual Warlock's beast then. So, again, pretty different to what they're trying to do here, but some survivability stuff going in. Sure, it has a lightning blast that has, electric field and reload. So sure, I shoot with the lightning. Sure, why not? Nothing really fancy there. Magical spear, probably never come up. Then there's this. It has Fleeting Storm, which is you get to put down this 3-inch AoE cloud effect anywhere completely with this spellcaster's control range where it does not touch another cloud effect. And then the range attacks targeting the models completely within the AoE suffer a -3 range. Now, the interesting thing about this cloud here is that you can't stack it very well. There's theoretically here, we get to place this anywhere you want, but not touching another cloud effect, meaning that if there was another cloud somewhere, you actually couldn't close the door because they couldn't actually touch. In theory, there'd always be some little sliver between them. So you could be using this to be adding to line of sight blocking on buildings and forests, but that's a weird thing to be putting in there for not making sure that the clouds actually completely cover. Maybe they're worried about there's too much cloud dominance out there with things like Gas B4 and stuff like that. Then finally also has Lightning Blade. Target friendly faction living war beast gains immunity, electricity, and effective model melee weapons gain range 2 and +2 POW. Now that is a very potent damage buff that you have there, right? Not only making it so it's range 2, so you throw this on something else, like not a stalker, but maybe one of the other werewolves that doesn't have reach 2, boom, you're extending its threat, and +2 POW. And this is something that you could probably, stack up with some other things out there as well. So this is a very interesting one to have out there. Again, sometimes we just had a CID, or not a CID, a dynamic update for the Storm Division. Anywhere you can be just slapping on the immunity to lightning, sure, might as well be doing that too. But what are we seeing from all these? This one, again, was not like the first two. This one's kind of like its own little support dude that wants to go in there and try and support some of the living war beasts out there. Well, I feel like what Privateer Press is trying to do with these is try to unlock and find some new design space. Now, I think the very first thing to consider here is that Hordes in War Machine Focus versus Fury is a very different thing when it comes to juniors. When it comes to War Machine, when you are trying to be a warcaster that is trying to do these spells and running your jacks, focus is a real limitation, right? If I'm going to be allocating these things to my beasts, I can't be having them for myself to, keep myself alive, cast my spells, boost things, whatever. And so having juniors is a great way to be okay, I'm going to handle the magic stuff. You handle the fueling the jack stuff. I still have to take a battle group of my own. I'll put something on there that makes sense. But if I want to go larger than the minimum, my juniors can very well take care of this. Well, when we're looking over at the Horde side, that's not exactly the same, because the way it normally goes in Hordes is that you can run as many beasts as you want. If you go in there and you're okay, pick a caster, pick a beast, copy, paste until it's full, those beasts can go in there and they can do all the work they want. They can buy, load up on Fury, do crazy work, and yeah, next turn you're going to have to worry about frenzying. It's a lot different in the way it kind of works. However, with my experience when I played it, you can lean into that, right? Because if I get the alpha, if I'm going in there, I can go hot, as it's called, where there's more Fury out there on the board than I can take back, because if they don't kill my beast, well then what did you do on your turn? If I went into you as an alpha and started wrecking, your face with my heavies, and then you're not killing a heavy back, well then I'm clearly ahead, and to be rewarded with this, sure, one will frenzy and I'll get a free attack against you and do even more damage, sure, why not? However, if the logical thing happens in a peace trading ideology where I came in, destroyed something, you destroy some things back, well, okay, that's no longer a problem. You killed this heavy, okay, I understand, peace trading, that fury can go bye-bye. Oh, you killed another heavy? Well, this one I need, okay, I'll reave that one and I'll keep it for myself, right? But the thing is that you can go in deeper and hotter than you actually might, be able to logically take back next turn, as opposed to War Machine where you just can't really do that. Now, I don't want to get too deep into this War Machine versus Horde side, but that is important when it comes to the idea of juniors, because what are the juniors going to be doing in this case? Is there a reason that you actually even want to have them? I mean, so far, seeing juniors in War Machine, very popular. The few juniors that we've had for Hordes, not really popular. So they really have to break into something that's adding something. And I think what we're seeing here is more of that, right? When we came to the Madrak Zero and the Barnabas Zero, these are two ones where like, okay, I realize you could be running your own battle group, but I'm going to be making it stronger. I'm going to be really giving specific bonuses here, strong bonuses to this battle group that makes you go like, oh, okay, I guess I should have this on you, because even though I could theoretically run it myself, you just make them stronger by having them with you. Sure, why not? For things like Makeda, I think, and again, this is like one of my little, I always yell this one, but infantry right now, not doing so hot. There's a Death Archons out there killing them, all this stuff. Having something out there that says, okay, I might not be trying to run the battle group better than you, but I'm going to try and make the infantry work better, which will just kind of make the army work better, hopefully as a whole, right? Making it so it has +1 defense, more so speeding it up, right? That's the big thing, is if my infantry can at least be in a spot where they can be fast enough to threaten the alpha and then have that defense to kind of like hold you off, well, then that's great. Then all the other things that are here can be hitting you hard after. So you hold your battle group, I'm going to take care of the infantry, I'm going to charge in with them, do some great damage, try and bog them down to make sure they can't counterattack and hit the important stuff. And then next turn, all right, bring in your battle group and we'll make this work type thing. That's great. That's what a Horde's Warlock is looking for in a junior. How about for the last one here, when we're talking about the Kruger Zero? It's the same type of idea, right? Where I can at least put down the clouds to try and control things and block some line of sight. Again, there's some limitations there, both with the cloud and with the damage buff. But with this damage buff again, it's something where, hey, I'm going to go and make this thing have +2 range and +2 pow. And if we think of the way that this one was made, we almost kind of want to have a sacrificial, war beast with this caster. We're like, okay, you know what I'm going to do with this? I'm going to take something that's going to be just a glass cannon, glass hammer, however you want to be using the analogy there. I'm going to be putting something on me and it's going to go into you and I'm going to smash your face and it's going to be doing great work, but it's going to die and I'm not going to have a battle group anymore. But that's okay, because I actually have things where I can be casting spells on your war beasts and I can transfer that to them as well, and I can be getting fury in other ways here too. So yes, your battle group is great and all those things, but I can be sitting here as a damage buff that kind of adds even more to this, as well as some protection. I'm going to send things in as that first big attack, and then I'm going to support your war beast after. So what I'm seeing here is, first of all, I'm loving the designs for all of these, right? These could have been completely forgettable. We could look at them and be like, they're trash, nobody's going to take them. I don't feel that's the case for any of these ones we've seen so far. They could have also been completely over the top. They could have been the Asphyxious, the Sanctified, the Zero versions for all the things here in Hordes, all of them being crazy. I'm not seeing that either. These all seem to be in a spot where they'll have certain spots where they can fit into a list and do well, but it's not like they're no-brainers. They're going to be in every single list. They're all attacking some spot of design where, like, okay, I realize normally The juniors can't do much for the Warlock, but this is hopefully something that brings it to the forefront and makes it a little bit more interesting. I especially like the ones like Makeda, where it's looking at the meta and saying like, okay, what's actually not being done right now? Oh, okay, you're not really doing the whole infantry thing. Let's try and find a way to make that a little bit stronger. And I love that. I really hope that they do a lot of more things like that and try and say like what's kind of super crazy. We're going to try and support these things to kind of balance them out. And also, I feel like learning from their mistakes, not making them as strong as Gaspy 4, and where we've been seeing the clouds from Gaspy, where they're really dominating the battleground. Well, this cloud has that limitation. So this really shows something where it's kind of like a sense of the meta, and also making sure it's not going to be too dominating as well. So I really like what they've done here. What do I expect to see when we're going forward to other ones like Thagrosh? I expect to see the same type of thing. Now, Thagrosh is, again, a very battle group type of warlock, and so I expect to see the same type of thing here that we saw with those first two, where its battle group gets something really extra. I'm not sure what it is. I think it wouldn't be very interesting. Let's just put a guess out there. One of the biggest things with Thagrosh is that you kill one of my beasts and I bring it back as the feat. Well, what if we have the spell for that, right? We have the spell in War Machine where when you destroy a beast, it comes back. There's no reason not to have the one for the War Beast here for Thagrosh. I'll have this thing and I'll try and keep it alive. There's a lot of interesting things here they can be doing with it. Now, that's just what was kind of announced, what we knew was going to be coming out. What do I expect to see from these zeros going forward? I think the zeros are something that is a very interesting thing for Privateer Press to play with. They are something where they're not a top-level caster, which can go into there, have a lot of overarching power, and you got to look at a lot of ways that might be broken. It's very limited in what it can do. And so this is something that I feel Privateer Press can go into and kind of like wiggle their arms around and try and push a few of things, knowing that they're probably not going to break it. They can try and use it to try and fix some parts of the meta, answer some things that aren't really there for that faction. But at the same time, not be worried like, oh no, we pushed this one too hard and now this Warlock is going to be, the #1 tournament caster going out there. So I really like that, and I feel that this is something that can really be added here, especially for the Horde side. For the War Machine side, it's a little bit easier for those things to abuse since they want those juniors even more, but we'll see how that goes. Another part that I really like with this too is how it helps bring back in the story. These zeros didn't have to be zeros. They could have been anything, right? They could have been Rotfang, Greedy, or whatever, right? Make up some name for whatever new Hordes character they want to add into it. Boom, there is your new journeyman. Enjoy. But the nice thing about having these zeros is the fact that they add to the story, right? And at a time right now where a lot of the community is being like, you know what we're missing from War Machine right now is the lore, is the fluff. Putting in these zeros does two things. One, it kind of like answers something and says like, well, what was, Barnabas like before? Well, here you go. And the other thing it does too is that once you see this piece of the story that they're giving to you, that this is what this was like before, it kind of then asks you like, oh, well then where did it go from this, right? Oh, this is what Barnabas 1 is like. Oh, this is what Barnabas 2 is like. Now this story makes sense, right? When I just give you one character, it's hard to tell a story. When I can go and give you 3, then you can actually see a progression in the storyline. And where we are right now, we could be saying, well, instead, don't do a Barnabas 0, do a Barnabas 1, 2, 3. But Barnabas 2 is already kind of where it wants to be. So I think you have to go back in order to give the story instead. So I really like this idea. I hope Privateer Press plays around with it a lot more. I think there's a lot of design space here to jump into it. And I hope this is not the end. I hope that, okay, they're not like, okay, we did the War Machine ones. Now we did the Hordes ones. That's it. I hope they keep on doing this. Maybe not like all the time, like big dumps like what we've seen with these, but just once in a while, adding these in, right? Getting to see where these kind of things kind of go, right? Like give us a Bradigus 2, and then after that, give us a Bradigus 0 or whatever, right? So we can kind of see the storyline. Just start dropping those things in. So there you go. Thanks for watching. As always, a big thank you to all my patrons. You're the ones that make this happen. So unfortunately, we actually lost one of our content overlords. I think it was more so just like more of a clerical thing. We'll see what happens. But again, thank you to all of you. You're the ones that kind of make these things happen and get improved. To everyone who's watching this, I love to know what your feedback is, right? Post it down below. I love having those conversations because maybe I said something today was completely off. You're like, no, that's not what this warlock does. This is going to do something totally different. No, that's not what Privateer Press is trying to do. They're trying to do something different. Let's have this conversation. I always like having that. So anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you later. Bye.